Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
We just can't do private parties with dozens of people at them in close surroundings.
Risky behavior, a warning from health officials as more partygoers and police officers test positive. Also,
I would have never imagined anything like this ever happening.
Canadians and Americans desperate to meet flood into the only place they can, Peace Arch Park. And
jet boats are killing the fish. They need to shut this river down to jet boats. He's probably killed 200,000-300,000 eggs.
the push to protect salmon spawning grounds on the Pitt River.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Concerns about large parties in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic now have police involved. A number of Vancouver officers have been infected. Dan Burrett joins us live now with more. So, Dan, first of all, what's happened?
Well, yesterday, we know Health Minister Adrian Dix told people hosting or going to large gatherings to, in his words, stop. That's enough. But now the head of the Vancouver Police Union claims several officers have tested positive for the coronavirus after having to break up a large party, and more are isolating. This afternoon, Union President Ralph Kaisers tweeted this, claiming 2 PPD patrol teams are in isolation because of an out-of-control 100-person-plus party they had to respond to. He also says 3 officers have tested positive for COVID. We've asked Kaisers and Vancouver Police for more information and confirmation. We're still waiting to hear back. It's not yet clear where this large party is said to have been held. As we said yesterday, Adrian Dix asked people not to host or go to large parties. Today, he says he knows some people go to parties and they're fine, but not everybody.
Can't blame people who get sick, but we do have to learn from what's happening. And what's happening is people are having private parties. They're going. They don't know everyone there. Sometimes alcohol is involved, and that means that the potential for people to get sick is greater.
Now, Dan, Vancouver Police not the only force dealing with parties during this pandemic. There's another one.
Yes, Surrey RCMP says a 40-year-old man has been arrested for uttering threats and break and enter related to an investigation into illegal after-hours clubs in that city. They say they ID'd a man who was allegedly using a leased commercial space to host unlicensed events. 2 days ago, Fraser Health warned of a possible COVID-19 exposure at a hookah lounge on King George Boulevard. This video believed to be at that address, and police believe the man arrested was running this event. The man has been released with conditions, and no charges have been laid as of yet, but Surrey RCMP as well asked people to avoid these parties, especially amid a pandemic. Lien.
Some advice we definitely want to heed. All right, thank you so much for that, Dan Burrett, reporting for us tonight. Keeping those parties in check will be key to stopping the spread of the virus, but the health minister says lessons still need to be learned as BC is announcing 53 new cases of COVID-19, the highest single-day total since the end of April. There are now 386 active cases in the province. That's the highest point since early May. There's also been another outbreak at a healthcare facility, this one at Derby Manor, an independent living facility in Burnaby, where an employee tested positive. One sign of optimism, though, there have been no deaths for 7 straight days, and hospitalizations remain the same at 11 people, with 4 of them in ICU. People have been meeting at Peace Arch Park since the closure of the Canada-US border in March. While the Canadian side closed due to overcrowding 2 months ago, there's now an influx of people on the American side. And as Yvette Brennan reports, one U.S. park ranger says that in his 4 decades there, he's never seen anything like it.
20 acres of lawn and gardens, and lately, lots of visitors.
1, 2, 3.
All greeted by Ranger Rick.
Hi, how you doing? How many miles you go today?
Rick Blank started as a park ranger in 1974. He's never been so busy. He's expecting an extra 250,000 guests this year. His park is unique. It straddles the border, and it's the only place visitors can cross freely right now.
This is the only spot where Canadians and Americans can meet and enjoy, just being together.
In close to 50 years on the job, Ranger Rick says 2020 is unlike any other year.
I see Canadians coming in and Americans meeting. I see grandmothers, grandfathers seeing their grandchildren for the very first time. I saw a mother here that had not connected with their daughter for over 50 years. Last Saturday, I had 3 proposals. The main thing is what I'm seeing is that this is a special spot right now in this time for folks to go ahead to meet.
Not even a pandemic could force Peace Arch Park to fence out Canadians who have been welcome here for the past 99 years.
The park has been looked at to be closed and things like that, but I was never worried. I just knew this would be treasured, and especially when the provincial park had to close for overcrowding, it became even more treasured.
Just ask Charlene Dorward from Burnaby and her partner Bob Myrick, who lives in Tacoma.
It's the only way we can see each other right now.
It's really important. We met at the Double Ditch Road over by Linden about, was it a month ago?
Yeah.
And there you're just, you're standing on the ditch and leaning on the monument. But this is great.
The parking lot is jammed. People arrive from Colorado, Montana, Utah. It's the people that keep Ranger Rick going.
There she goes, yes. Waving to Dorothy, She's 99. Her husband used to be the park manager.
Ranger Rick tells people to stay 6 feet apart, to keep groups to under 5 people, and wear masks.
I am so happy that you all got your masks on. This is great, okay?
This is the only point along the northern border of the U.S. where Americans and Canadians can mingle without going through customs. But some fear that with all those heartfelt reunions that you see behind me comes a security risk.
I know there's this pent-up cabin fever people have got to get across, but we're seeing more and more people now taking the proper precautions and doing it right.
For John George, who overlooks the park from his Surrey home, do the right thing would mean stopping people who border hop or abuse the park. Police do keep a close watch on the park, but their surveillance cameras aimed at crime end up just confirming the close ties between the 2 countries that built this grassy escape that Ranger Rick takes such good care of.
And thanks for wearing your mask.
Yvette Bren, CBC News, Peace Arch Park.
And when it comes to COVID numbers in comparison with BC, there were 833 new cases of COVID-19 recorded in Washington state today, with 29 deaths. And some good news on the work front. BC added more than 70,000 jobs in July as Phase 3 of the Economic Restart Plan continues to roll out. The unemployment rate dropped 1.9 percentage points to 11.1%. That's mainly thanks to a big turnaround in the retail, food service, and accommodation sectors. During the same month, 418,500 jobs were added across the country. Now, national unemployment sits at 10.9%, a decline of 1.4 percentage points. Volunteers are coming together to organize a community patrol in the Strathcona neighborhood. The move comes amid mounting tensions between Tent City campers and longtime residents. But as John Hernandez reports, not everyone who lives inside the encampment is on board.
Robert Epp knows how important a tent city like this can be to the people who live there.
It's a place of sanctity. It's a place of security for a lot of people that are vulnerable, especially to violence.
He was homeless just a few years ago. Now a Strathcona resident, he lives a few blocks away from the park and wants to make a difference.
What we're trying to do here is have a citizens patrol here in Vancouver to offset all the problems that have been happening in the neighborhood, especially with the high stress with Tent City.
A patrol aimed at alleviating tensions. Conflicts have erupted in the Strathcona neighborhood. Many longtime residents unnerved by things like public drug use and discarded needles.
I think the level has risen of tension, of anxiety.
There's definitely tension around people wanting to use the park but being unable to, and I guess with kind of having kids in the area as well, it's felt as not as safe.
Organizers are looking for volunteers to take part in the proposed citizen patrol. It's modeled after successful programs in Winnipeg and Regina. The goal is to diffuse conflicts before they end in violence or with a call to police.
There's better ways of communicating with our community members other than police.
Well-intentioned, but not without critics from inside the camp.
I appreciate their enthusiasm. I am very disappointed in their lack of consultation.
Camp liaison Chrissy Brett says the camp is planning to organize its own team.
If they want to find another neighborhood that they want to create the Bear Paw Patrol, I would suggest that they consider doing that in their own neighborhood along Hastings Street, and we'll take care of our own over here.
A neighborhood divided, but some just want everyone to feel at home.
A kind word goes a long way.
John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
One person is dead after a motorcycle crash in Port Coquitlam this morning. Police were called to the Fremont connector near Nicola Avenue shortly before 7 this morning. An RCMP spokesperson says the investigation is still in its early stages, but speed does not appear to be a factor. Traffic had to be rerouted for hours and drivers were warned to avoid the area. The coroner's service is investigating. And for years, fishing guide Dan Gurek has tried to have jet boats banned from the upper Pitt River. He argues they're destroying delicate salmon spawning habitats. So far, Gurek has been unsuccessful, but now a First Nation is joining his fight. As Jesse Johnston reports, he hopes their support will make all the difference.
Here's another boat. This is just one after another going over spawning salmon.
This drone video of jet boats ripping across salmon-bearing streams that flow into the Pitt River
You see all the salmon here?
shows exactly what fishing guide Dan Gurek is fighting against. Jet boats can maneuver in much shallower areas than propeller boats. Gurek says that allows joyriders to tear through spawning grounds, sometimes in water only centimeters deep.
You can't have jet boats over where the fish are spawning. You wouldn't run a dirt bike through a chicken coop.
The province put up signs, but
you can't even read it. The writing is so small on it that you can't see what it says.
Gurek says they don't accomplish much, so now local First Nations are applying to Transport Canada to have jet boats banned from the area.
You know, I'll take whatever we can get, whether it's we put a boundary up, you know, if it's total ban on motorboats on the Pitt River, the upper Pitt River, that'd be, you know, a dream come true. You know, we need to protect our salmon.
Fisheries and Oceans Canada says it's had complaints, but no joyriders have been spotted this year. Officers have occasionally seen jet boats, but they've just been out fishing.
Some of the people that are saying, well, it's jet boats, they're causing a lot of disturbance and killing fish and eggs. I've not seen anything that supports that.
Even if officers spot a joyrider, there are no restrictions to enforce. Transport Canada can change that, but it says rules and penalties are a last resort. It prefers parties work together, and local First Nations agree it's up to everyone to find a solution.
If these recreational groups want to have some dialogue over maybe some proposed First Nation thoughts and ideas of what needs to happen, then I think that's a place and a venue to set the table for those discussions.
For Gurek, the answer is simple: an outright ban on jet boats. He spent years fighting for it, unsuccessfully, but now he has help, and he hopes that will bring about change. Jesse Johnston, CBC News, Pitt River.
The weather update is brought to you by Fortis BC. Using more energy these days? We've got energy-saving tips, easy upgrades, how-to videos, and more.
And here for a first quick look at our weather forecast, meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe joins us now. So, Joe, I see you've retreated indoors because it's kind of wet outside, hey?
It's nice to have an alternate location, I'm just saying, because, yeah, it is coming down out there behind me. The rain moving in the past couple of hours. It's a narrow band. Let's see if we can get it on the radar really quickly. So it's not going to last all weekend, but as you can see, it's quite wet across the south coast from Victoria all the way to Chilliwack. I'll take you through to the other side of this front and into a good-looking weekend coming up.
That sounds great. Thanks, Joe. Canada is taking retaliatory action against the U.S. in the latest trade battle between the two countries. Yesterday, President Donald Trump announced a new 10% tariff on Canadian aluminum imports. But today, Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland called the decision absurd, unwarranted, and unacceptable.
Let me start by saying how much I regret that Canada is, once again, dealing with a U.S. trade action.
Chrystia Freeland thought her fight with Donald Trump over trade was settled. Instead, the Deputy Prime Minister finds herself back in the ring for round two.
We will not escalate, and we will not back down.
Freeland calling Trump's decision to reimpose a 10% levy on Canadian aluminum ludicrous and absurd, announcing retaliation. $3.6 billion in tariffs on U.S. goods that contain aluminum, The potential targets, everything from washing machines to bike wheels to golf clubs.
Reimposing aluminum tariffs on Canada. Canada was taking advantage of us, as usual.
For Donald Trump, the hope appears to be that tough talk on trade will bolster his own hopes for re-election. But it's a risky strategy.
I just don't think there's a lot of appetite here by voters on the ground to take more tariff pain, particularly at a time where the economy is very fragile right now.
The U.S. president reopening a trade dispute as the economies of both Canada and the U.S. are still struggling in a global pandemic.
And who does this? In times like this, who tries to go after your closest ally, your closest trading partner, your #1 customer in the entire world? Who would do this? Well, President Trump did this.
Ontario's premier today urging consumers and companies in his province to fight back, to buy Canadian goods over ones produced in the U.S. whenever they can.
We're up against a real battle right now. It's us versus them.
The U.S. tariffs don't kick in until later this month. Canada is taking 30 days to finalize its plans for retaliation. Chrystia Freeland says she still hopes the U.S. may reverse course, but she says with the Trump administration, she's learned to hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Tom Parry, CBC News, Ottawa.
Embattled Governor General Julie Payette is facing tough scrutiny over 2 controversies, and finding support for her in the Trudeau government is proving tough. Ashley Burke, who wrote the recent stories on Payette, explains why.
It was hardly a ringing endorsement. The Deputy Prime Minister given 2 opportunities to support Governor General Julie Payette.
Should Canadians have confidence in this Governor General? Does your government have confidence in her?
And twice she drew a sharp distinction between the office and its occupant, staying silent on praise for Payette.
I think Canadians have a great respect for the office of the Governor General, and I have that respect as well.
But for this Governor General?
As I said, I think Canadians understand and appreciate the way our system of government, our constitutional system works. The Governor General, the office of the Governor General plays a very important role in that system.
It's the clearest signal so far that the Liberal government is distancing itself from the Governor General Justin Trudeau selected in 2017.
And I know she will do an extraordinary job.
But 3 years into the job, she's come under fire for creating a toxic work environment, claims she's harassed employees. And Trudeau hasn't directly come to her defense.
Every Canadian has the right to a safe, secure workspace free from harassment.
And now revelations $250,000 was spent on projects to fulfill Payette's own desire for privacy at Rideau Hall.
When we spend money, we are spending the money of Canadians, and we have to be very, very thoughtful about that, very careful about that.
Well, at this stage right now, an office which is supposed to be above partisanship, is supposed to be above controversy, is supposed to represent Canadians as a whole, is finding itself having to dodge and weave and explain various things that really don't make it out to be the dignified office that it's supposed to be.
Lagacé says it falls to the Prime Minister to address this controversy, one in which he says is causing damage to the integrity of one of the highest offices in the country. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
The COVID-19 pandemic surpassed a somber milestone tonight, with more than almost 720,000 deaths worldwide. The United States continues to have the highest virus-related mortality rate of all nations. India, with more than 4 times the population, has 1/4 of the number of deaths. But its numbers are rising, with infections now surpassing the 2 million mark. The WHO's global figures paint a bleak reality, with 1 COVID-related death recorded every 15 seconds. Brazil and Mexico have the 2nd and 3rd highest mortality rates in the world. Canada currently ranks 17th. In Lebanon tonight, the president says he knew about the massive stockpile of explosive materials stored at Beirut's port weeks before Tuesday's horrific blast. Still, he appears to be trying to pin the blame elsewhere, even on an outside attack. And as Rebecca Collard reports, growing mistrust in the government is leading to calls for an independent investigation.
Comments today from Lebanon's political leaders. First of all, the country's president made a statement saying that it's possible that there was some sort of outside interference a bomb or a rocket that caused the explosion here on Tuesday. And since this explosion, there has been a lot of speculation, a lot of theories, conspiracy theories, and finger pointing that it could be an attack, that it could have been some sort of attempt to derail the verdict into the killing of a former prime minister that was due today. But nobody has provided any evidence that it was anything other than negligence and an accident. Also had the leader of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, speak, and he denied the accusations that Hezbollah had anything to do with controlling the port or to do with this explosion. I can tell you the people on the streets here, and there's thousands that have come to Beirut to help volunteer, are really sick of all these statements. They blame the whole leadership for what happened, and they're asking that there be an investigation, not just by the Lebanese government, but also with some sort of foreign body.
The situation is really dire. Victims' calls for accountability must be heard, including through undertaking an impartial, independent, thorough, and transparent investigation into the explosion.
Rebecca Collard, CBC News, Beirut.
A passenger jet has crashed in southern India, killing at least 16 people and injuring 123. It appears to have skidded off the runway while attempting to land during heavy rain. And as Thomas Daigle reports, the plane was repatriating Indian nationals stranded overseas due to the pandemic.
A frantic rescue effort at a dreadful scene. That's a Boeing 737 broken in half after overshooting the runway and skidding down that embankment about 10 meters with nearly 200 people on board.
The aircraft, the front portion has been very badly mangled and damaged.
The Air India flight had come from Dubai to bring home people stranded by the pandemic. Instead, victims were rushed to hospital, some so young they were carried in. The injured, dozens of them, kept coming through the night.
Something didn't happen properly. Possibly the pilot touched down too far down the runway. Perhaps the wind suddenly shifted at the last minute.
Remember, it's monsoon season in India. Earlier in the day in the same southern state, Kerala, torrential rain triggered a deadly landslide. Facing harsh conditions in the evening, the pilot made a first attempt at the runway, turned around and tried again for a botched landing.
This is the kind of accident that technology is not there to prevent. And I'll tell you, it's going to happen again.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi tweeted he's pained by the accident and said his thoughts are with those who lost loved ones. Investigators will attempt to recover the flight data and cockpit voice recorders to better understand what happened. For families who agonized over loved ones stuck abroad, there's now grief amid the agony. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
The weather update is brought to you by Fortis BC. Using more energy these days? We've got energy-saving tips, easy upgrades, how-to videos, and more.
And Johanna is back. So, Joe, are we expecting summer to come back for the weekend?
We do have some milder temperatures and sunshine just around the corner, despite the rainy couple of days we've had, and cool as well. Let's take you to the temperatures where we've been below seasonal by a couple of degrees for 2 days now. Just a 16 right now at YVR, 15 up towards Squamish and 19 out towards Hope. Those are chilly temperatures, a good 7 degrees below our seasonal. That's all thanks to this quite sharp cold front. In fact, it's more fall-like, the kind of setup we're seeing right now than reminiscent of midsummer. But watch as I take you through to Saturday afternoon, things clearing out quite quickly. I do have to keep the risk for some Saturday morning showers in, but by the afternoon, a very sunny day. And look at this, Sunday also into the sunshine. And all of that rain we've seen across the province has been some good news. I know we need it for the gardens and the grass and our water levels, but look at this. Fire danger definitely dropped across much of the province. Still looking at a little hot spot in southern Okanagan, but their temperatures cool as well. If you're headed east this weekend, staying below seasonal right across the province, we'll start to see things heat back up again beginning on Sunday, and that's our story as well. 21 tomorrow in the afternoon. Again, you might wake up to an overcast day, but by the afternoon, things will turn around. Hot again on Sunday, 26 if you're inland. A little hotter as we head into Monday. I think that'll be the peak of the week. And then I'm looking at a weather pattern to change for Tuesday, Wednesday, and the rest of the week. It's not a washout, just a few more clouds, cooler temperatures, something for everyone in the forecast, but nothing too extreme.
Something for the person who is currently pregnant and very happy with these much cooler temperatures. Thank you for that, Joe. Well, a time capsule made back in 1970 was finally opened this morning in Abbotsford. Buried in front of the Abbotsford Airport, it was created to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Abbotsford being named Canada's National Air Show. The cairn was constructed from rocks from around the world, including a piece of the London Bridge and a rock from the Swiss Alps. Air Show President Jim Reith says half a century ago, it would have been outrageous to consider the air show could have been canceled due to a global pandemic. But not even the pandemic could stop the capsule from being unsealed.
And as you can see, Steve has found the time capsule. Look what 50 years does.
I love that play-by-play. Inside, there were messages from then Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau and one from U.S. President Richard Nixon. National Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan was there to mark the occasion. Sajjan says the past 50 years can help us learn to build a better, more inclusive Canada. But if you're still looking for some high-flying feats, Saturday they will be presenting a special online 2020 virtual Abbotsford Air Show. And that might be fun. All right, you can always find our news program online at cbc.ca/BC. Thank you for tuning into our online edition right now. Our next local news on the television is at 7:30 p.m. after the hockey game on CBC TV. And Dan Burt will also be back at 11 o'clock right after the National. And tonight we are going to leave you with a musical taste of summer from last year. Social distancing makes our musical nooners not possible this year, unfortunately. But from July of last year, this is the Harpoonist and the Axe Murderer, joined by Don Pemberton. Good night.